Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News Program. To the headlines. Airstrikes ravaged northern, central and southern Gaza, leaving scores dead and wounded. Meanwhile, Zionist prisoners held by Hamas plead for the leaders to secure their release. The Zionist occupation tightens its grip on Gaza, preventing humanitarian aid from entering and violating the truce. Hamas denounces the move as blackmail, while Palestinians call for urgent international pressure to enforce the agreement. In Morocco, public opposition surges against restrictions on religious slaughter, while solidarity mounts for bloggers facing pressure over their stance against normalization. Also coming up, as London unveils a joint British-French proposal to end the war in Ukraine, the European Commission urges swift action, while Moscow accuses Macron of fueling the conflict. Welcome back to the details. Kicking off our news tonight, Zionist forces unleashed a fresh wave of deadly assaults across Gaza on Sunday, claiming the lives of 4 Palestinians, including a woman, and leaving several others wounded. In the north, occupation drones rained fire on Beit Hanun, killing 2 and injuring more, according to Palestinian media. Meanwhile, in Khan Yunis, an airstrike snuffed out a woman's life and left 2 others injured. Further south in Rafah, Zionist snipers gunned down a young man and wounded 3 more. Adding to the devastation, warplanes pounded residential towers in Tel Sultan, deepening the toll on an already besieged population.
The boys were going to the neighborhood and found tanks advancing head-on, so a tank shell was fired at them. As you can see, everyone here was torn to pieces, and we put them all in a bag. They did not respect a ceasefire, a truce or anything. The Jews only understand force, and one needs to show strength to be able to live next to them.
Escalating their onslaught, Zionist occupation tanks unleashed relentless fire on multiple areas across central and southern Gaza, Palestinian media reported. In the central region, heavy shelling pounded areas east of Johar Dik and a breach camp, while in the south, towns east of Khan Yunis, Al-Qarara and Abasan came under intense tank bombardment. Denouncing the unabated aggression, Hamas condemned the persistent targeting of Palestinians in Gaza since the ceasefire, particularly along the Salah ad-Din axis, decrying it as a flagrant breach of the agreement.
The occupation continues to violate the ceasefire, whether by blocking the entry of aid, maintaining control over the Salah ad-Din axis, or continuing to shoot at civilians. The latest incident occurred this morning in the town of Beit Hanun, resulting in the number of martyrs in the Gaza Strip rising to over 100 since the start of the agreement. This is a clear and blatant violation of the ceasefire.
The Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza reported 116 martyrs and at least 490 injuries since the ceasefire was declared. On Sunday morning alone, 4 more martyrs and 6 wounded were rushed to hospitals after Zionist occupation forces struck multiple areas, further exacerbating the humanitarian catastrophe. Ramadan in Gaza is a shadow of what it once was, a time of devotion, family gatherings and a communal joy. The shared downs over a land in ruins where mourning families grapple with loss and devastation, searching for solace amid the rubble. Salman Nasib has more.
Despite a fragile ceasefire in Gaza, this Ramadan is a far cry from the warmth and tradition Palestinians once knew. The Zionist genocide has turned what was once a sacred and joyous time into a season of mourning. The air that once carried a scent of home-cooked meals and the echoes of evening prayers now hangs heavy with grief and loss. For Fatima Al-Lepsi, a resident of Jabalia, this Ramadan is unlike any other. Once she would bustle through markets, preparing for the holy month, visiting loved ones and praying at her local mosque. Now, her world has been shattered. Her husband and son-in-law are gone, her home reduced to ruins, and the mosque she once cherished obliterated.
This Ramadan, I lost my home, I lost my husband, I lost my son-in-law, my loved ones are gone. I have nowhere to go. I am forced to return to the rubble of what was once my house. If I had a choice, I would never set foot there again. But tell me, where else can I go?
The memories of breaking fast with her husband haunt her. Every meal, every prayer is a painful reminder of what has been taken from her.
This Ramadan is drenched in sorrow. Look around. Martyrs still lie beneath the rubble. My husband was among them. Every moment, every prayer, I remember him. When I sit at the table, the emptiness is unbearable. We used to wait for him, breaking our fast with dates until he finished his Maghrib prayer. Now, no one is waiting. Neither my husband nor my daughter's husband. What a cruel twist of fate.
Ramadan, a time meant for unity, now finds families scattered, their tables bare. The once familiar spread of mulukhia, chicken soups and fresh salads is a distant memory. Every year on the first night, we prepared a feast, our way of welcoming the holy month. But now, what feast? What celebration? The markets are inaccessible, and even if we would go, we have nothing to buy with. No salary, no help, nothing. While the ceasefire has brought a momentary pause in airstrikes, fear lingers in every heart. For Fatima and thousands like her, relief is laced with dread. The question remains, how long before the occupation resumes its destruction? How long before Gaza is once again engulfed in fire and blood? For now, Ramadan continues, but in Gaza, it is a Ramadan of grief, resilience, and uncertain tomorrow.
The Zionist occupation continues to stall on implementing the ceasefire agreement, even as it greenlights a new U.S. proposal for a temporary truce during Ramadan. The plan, introduced by U.S. envoy Stephen Witkoff, conditions the ceasefire on the release of half of the Zionist prisoners, a stipulation Hamas has flatly rejected, accusing Netanyahu of exploiting U.S. mediation to sidestep the existing agreement. Hamas also condemned the occupation's blockade of humanitarian aid, branding it a war crime, and calling for urgent international intervention to safeguard Gaza's civilians.
The United States has in this instance acted as a partner in this starvation policy by supporting the occupying forces' political stance and enabling them to carry out their actions in Gaza without constraint. Hamas has also rejected the American proposals regarding the extension of the first phase, which would involve continuing the release of Israeli prisoners without a commitment to not return to the ceasefire or withdraw from the Gaza Strip. Hamas considers this unacceptable and remains determined to implement all the terms of the agreement across its three phases.
The government media office in Gaza has denounced the occupation's stranglehold on humanitarian aid, calling it an extension of genocide and deliberate starvation against the Palestinian people. In a statement on Sunday, the office accused the Zionist occupation of brazenly defying international law by blocking vital food and medical supplies from reaching 2 million Palestinians. It urged mediators to apply pressure to enforce the ceasefire and called for a unified Arab and Islamic stance in solidarity with Gaza.
The occupation's decision to halt aid entry into Gaza underscores its failure to honor commitments and its evasion of ceasefire obligations. This act continues the genocide against our people, using starvation as blackmail by depriving them of food, water, and medicine. By blocking aid, the occupation violates international law and wages a starvation war against a population entirely dependent on relief. We urge mediators to enforce the agreement, ensure humanitarian access, and demand a strong Arab, Islamic, and global response to end this crime against 2.4 million people.
Palestinians in the north voiced concern over the disruption of already scarce humanitarian aid after the occupation tightened its grip on supply routes. International agencies reported that since Sunday morning, dozens of aid trucks have been stranded at the Rafah crossing, left in limbo by the Zionist occupation's decision to halt deliveries, deepening the humanitarian crisis in the besieged Strip.
These people are struggling, and we need to stand by them, and everyone should support them. Now we are loading food supplies, and they don't want to allow us in. As for the decision not to allow aid, this is wrong, and it doesn't satisfy God. I hope everyone would support these people.
Relentless and unyielding, the Zionist occupation has escalated its assault on Tul Karam and its refugee camp for the 35th day, or consecutive day, setting homes ablaze in Nur Shams. According to the Palestinian news agency, occupation forces have demolished 11 homes since Saturday alone, part of a brutal 22-day demolition campaign targeting the besieged camp. Meanwhile, a suffocating military siege on Tul Karam has driven more than 16,000 Palestinians from their homes, deepening the humanitarian catastrophe. Escalating their provocations, Zionist settlers stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque compound through the Maghariba Gate, staging provocative tours and performing Talmudic rituals in its courtyards under the protection of the occupation forces. The Palestinian Ministry of Endowments revealed that in February alone, occupation forces raided Al-Aqsa 20 times and obstructed the call to prayer at the Ibrahimi Mosque 44 times. On Saturday evening, following Isha and Taraweeh prayers, Zionist troops forcibly cleared worshippers from Al-Aqsa's courtyards, further fueling tensions, according to the Palestinian news agency. For the first time in years, 620 Palestinian prisoners released in the exchange deal are embracing Ramadan with their families, finding solace after enduring a torment of captivity. Yet, the long-awaited joy is dampened by the Zionist occupation's restrictive measures, barring them from reaching Al-Aqsa Mosque for prayers. Sarah Ferjani reports now.
After spending 24 years behind bars, Palestinian prisoner Hamza al-Kalouti has finally embraced freedom. But his release comes with a cruel caveat. He is banned from entering Al-Aqsa Mosque, the very place he longed to pray in during his years of captivity. His yearning for freedom is only matched by his longing to stand in prayer at Al-Aqsa, the first Qibla of Islam, but the doors of the sacred mosque remain closed to him, sealed by an occupation that not only imprisoned his body, but now seeks to shackle his faith.
It's a very sad feeling. I was telling my wife about it. Al-Aqsa Mosque is in our blood. It's not like any other mosque or building. It is here nearby, but I'm unable to access it because I'm bound without any logical reason. This is inhuman and not legitimate.
On the first evening of Ramadan, Hamza finally breaks his fast, not in a prison cell but among family and loved ones. The sweetness of the dates melts away the bitterness of 2.5 decades in confinement.
We used to make soup in prison, the same ingredients and the salad too, but believe me, the taste is different now. These are great blessings. I can't describe my feelings. 24 Ramadans passed deprived of my family and beloved ones. This is the first day I'm breaking my fast with my beloved ones and family, my mother and my brother and beloved nephews. I can't describe my feelings.
He's one of 620 liberated Palestinian prisoners reunited with their families this Ramadan. Yet, even in their freedom, the occupation casts its shadow, barring them from Al-Aqsa Mosque, the beating heart of their faith. For Hamza and many others, this Ramadan is a time of joy, but also an unfulfilled longing, because true freedom, they believe, will only come when no force on earth can deny them the right to pray in their own sacred mosque.
In a concerted diplomatic effort, Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf and his Saudi counterpart Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud reviewed the latest developments in the Palestinian issue ahead of Tuesday's Emergency Arab Summit. According to an Algerian Foreign Ministry statement on Sunday, their talks also focused on coordinating preparations for the Organization of Islamic Cooperation's Extraordinary Foreign Ministers meeting scheduled for March 7. To another development in the Middle East, the Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor has strongly condemned the Zionist occupation's continued aggression against Syria, denouncing it as a flagrant violation of international law and the UN Charter. In a statement on Sunday, the organization warned that the entity is leveraging military force to impose a new occupation reality and expand its grip over southern Syria, further destabilizing the region. Public outrage is mounting in Morocco over the royal palace's decision to ban the ritual slaughter of sacrificial animals. King Mohammed VI's cancellation of the religious tradition has ignited widespread criticism, with many Moroccans rejecting the official justification as unconvincing, viewing the move as an affront to deeply rooted cultural and religious practices.
Breeders are suffering. Sheep that used to cost 90 dirhams now cost 35 or 40 dirhams. They lost up to 50% of their value. The situation is very difficult and a lot of people lost money feeding these animals. This should have been predicted earlier.
A show of solidarity is set to unfold in northern Morocco as supporters gathered outside the Tangier primary court on Monday afternoon to demand the release of detained anti-normalization blogger Adwan al-Qasid. The Solidarity Committee has called on the Makhzen authorities to free him and seize the crackdown on bloggers and journalists voicing opposition to normalization with the Zionist entity. Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune has reaffirmed his dedication to bolstering cooperation with Uruguay and deepening the historical ties between the two nations. This came as the President of Algeria's People's National Assembly, Ibrahim Boughali, attended the inauguration of Uruguay's President-elect Yomanda Orsay, conveying President Tebboune's congratulations and best wishes for his tenure. In response, Orsay expressed gratitude for Algeria's high-level participation in the ceremony and underscored his commitment to strengthening bilateral cooperation and coordination across various sectors and international forums. Amid mounting tensions, the European Commission President called on Europe to accelerate rearmament during a high-stakes summit in London. Meanwhile, reports surfaced of a joint British-French initiative aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. Sofian Kinturi reports now.
As Ukraine's allies wrapped up their summit in London, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen issued a warning. Europe must rearm urgently. She plans to unveil a comprehensive defense strategy next week, stressing that military spending must rise without delay.
The second element I brought to the table is that we urgently have to rearm Europe. And for that, I will present a comprehensive plan how to rearm Europe on the 6th of March, when we have our European Council to the leaders.
Meanwhile, Britain and France are crafting a plan to hold the fighting, with Prime Minister Keir Starmer hinting at broader international involvement. But as diplomacy surges, military aid flows faster. London has pledged 2.74 billion euros using frozen Russian assets. As for Berlin, it's pushing for an immediate 3 billion euros boost to Kiev's war effort.
The basis of everything would be a strong Ukrainian army. We should never forget it was not very strong before the war started, and it is now much stronger.
The Kremlin, however, sees European actions as fanning the flames. Moscow accused French President Emmanuel Macron of prolonging the war, while Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov praised Donald Trump's stance on ending the conflict and dismissed EU peacekeeping talks as fuel for escalation.
Now, after Biden's presidential term, came people who want to be guided by common sense, who bluntly declare we want to put an end to all wars, we want peace, and who is currently demanding the continuation of the banquet in the form of war is Europe.
As tensions mount, Europe faces a pivotal choice: push for peace or brace for prolonged conflict.
A humanitarian crisis is deepening in eastern DR Congo as the World Food Programme warns that 75% of displaced people are suffering from malnutrition. A recent survey conducted in early February revealed a staggering rise in food insecurity, with a percentage of those experiencing poor food consumption surging from 13% in December to 71% following the M23 armed groups' takeover of Goma. Barcelona is gearing up to host the Mobile World Congress 2025, a global showcase of cutting-edge mobile technology and connectivity. Set to open on Monday, Algeria's Minister of Post and Telecommunications, Sidani Zarouki, will participate in high-level meetings on the sidelines of the four-day event, where industry leaders, innovators, and experts will unveil the latest breakthroughs shaping the future of mobile tech. This year, artificial intelligence takes center stage, with leading international experts spearheading conferences and workshops on its transformative role in the industry.
We are taking part here at Barcelona, a side event to the MWC Barcelona, the Mobile World Congress, at the roundtable of AI for Africa, led by Smart Africa. So today, we gathered African Minister for ICT, Post and Telecommunication and Innovation, representing Algeria today, as to discuss the Council for AI for Africa, and where we are candidates to co-preside or co-chair, the African Council to discuss and to implement the AI strategy. So the discussion is still ongoing, and we are finalizing this roadmap for Africa to be announced during the Global AI Africa Summit in Kigali on the 3rd and the 4th of April.
Now for a roundup of global headlines, here's Yasin Irkti with the news in brief.
The Russian Defense Ministry announced that its air defense systems shot down 62 Ukrainian drones over Russian territory and targeted military airports and gas processing facilities in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces reported downing 63 out of 73 Russian drones that had attacked several regions in Ukraine. In a related development, NATO's former commander, Admiral James Stavridis, warned that NATO could face disintegration due to growing gap in US-European relations, expressing concern over the recent meeting between Zelensky and Trump, and suggesting more efforts from Europe to back up Kiev. 11 soldiers from the Nigerian Defense Forces were killed and several others wounded in a terrorist attack on Friday in another part of the country. According to Nigeria's official radio, the soldiers were ambushed while on patrol in a northern region by a terrorist group linked to Al-Qaeda. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has suggested that Canada and Mexico impose the same tariffs on Chinese goods as the United States. In an interview with Bloomberg, Bessent explained that Mexico's proposal to match U.S. tariffs on China is a strategic option, emphasizing that if Canada follows suit, it would strengthen a North American economic alliance, helping protect the region from large volumes of Chinese imports. Algeria has moved up to third place in the ranking of Africa's most valuable national brands, marking a significant rise this year. According to a 2025 report by Brand Finance, Algeria's brand value has increased by 21% compared to last year, reaching $106 billion. It now ranks behind South Africa, valued at $215 billion, and Nigeria, valued at $151 billion. A strong national brand allows countries to make a global impact and attract investments.
And that's the end of our news program for tonight. For more updates, be sure to visit our social media platforms, YouTube, X, Facebook, and Instagram. From me and the team of All 24 News, thank you for tuning in. Have a great night.